Hello everyone! Welcome! Today is the 0.41 update. A lot of this will be just bug fixes, but I did try and sprinkle in some new stuff just to keep the game more fresh this month. And that ended up taking up a lot of my time, because most of the Apacies got a big graphics change. First of all, it will be Myriad.
You can definitely see the difference up here in the corner.
Yeah, so it was brought up to me when I went to the Fakemon community that, not all the sprites are 128 by 128. In fact, I think the biggest they said was 96.
So, and those are legendaries.
So now I have it so that the pixel density matches Gen 3. So Myriad, being a first evolution, is going to be 48 by 48. Its final evolutions would be 64 by 64. Mid evolutions would be 56 by 56. For anyone who wanted to know the technicals. Another thing that I happen to do in this version is you see this gray background behind Myriad? It changes color based on the type, the primary type of the Apacies you are clicked on. So if I had different Apacies lined up here, let's say Sauron, I believe Sauron's first type is plant, so it would be more of a green instead of a gray. Just an easier glance to see what type your Apacies are if you wanted to create a more balanced team and whatnot. Second thing, I made it so that you can go back into this stage, which was a little bit weird and I had to do some coding because I had to say whether or not something was going to spawn. But aside from that, pretty easy. I reset up these stats at the end of each battle so that way you can't just spam, let's say, an equivalent to defense curl and just bolster your defense and then have it stay that bolstered for every fight you have. That needed to be fixed quickly. I did a whole lot of bug fixes, some of which included a missing spawn point. It was just not initiated. So there was one spot in the map that just wouldn't ever spawn Apacies, which kind of dumb on my part, but there was only one oversight. And that's the music in the background. It didn't loop. Once it was done playing one iteration, it would just stop, and you'd have a dead silent game. Right now I've got it so that it reloads the track every time you enter a new scene. And I'm gonna keep that for right now, because I'm hoping to have different tracks for each scene in particular. And eventually I'll make a script that fades out the old one and fades in the new one. Relatively easy, and hopefully won't be noticed too much by players, such as yourselves. Yeah, aside from that, let's check out a few new sprites and the special surprise of the new battle UI. I improved it a little bit. Instead of having a blatant text square, I have this. The background's still probably going to be changed, but I got a little lazy. I didn't change it here, but I had way too much other art to really focus on. Vesicle, again, is one of the Apacies with new sprites. Most of them didn't change much aside from their size. But there are 6, I believe, 6 of the 40 that don't have new sprites. And if I'm not mistaken, none of those 6 spawn as of right now. So, well, you don't see every Apacies, so I guess I can leverage that. I updated how move selection is shown too. I am going to limit the amount of moves that a creature can know to 6. And eventually I will just get rid of struggle. At least in the sense that once you learn 6 moves, struggle disappears. Maybe it'll come back if a move is absent. So if you're using an every other turn move, you used it last turn, that move disappears and maybe struggle can take its place. That might be a thing that I do in the future. But for right now, struggles is there. There's no save system yet, which I'll get into in a bit. But yes, I'm reorganizing the layout of all the UI so that it better hovers over enemies and there's more of a directionality There's more 3D visuals in the 2D game, where your creatures will be bigger and the enemies will be smaller. And then the UI I thought looked a lot cleaner if it was, instead of just a box, having it on the bottom of the screen. And same with the menus. They're still there, they still do their usual stuff. Here's an example of the 6 moves. But again, it looks a lot cleaner if I did it this way. And then a lot of this update seems to be wrapped around battles, which I'm having a heck of a time bug fixing. But that right there, in the 0.4 update, about half the time, maybe a little bit more, maybe all of it, I'm not quite sure, the battle would end, there would be no enemies, but it wouldn't just say run. It would ask you again if you wanted to fight. But then if you did that, you couldn't get out of that. You couldn't back out. So you were basically had to force quit the game. Same if you switched Apacies. You weren't able to go back. Well, that one you might be able to go back. But either way, the end of combat is supposed to have you with just this run button. Make it easy and clear that battle's over, and there really isn't much more to do. Plus, eventually it'll give me some time to put some experience bars, level up stuff, any rewards, or any new things that came from this battle. And then, just for future reference, right here, I have a switching template. So in the middle of a battle, not outside of it yet, if you have multiple Apacies, you can switch them out, but it will only ever switch out the Apacies whose turn it is. Since I only have one Apacies, and it is my turn, it's asking, I'm going to switch out Myriad, who do I want to switch her out with? I have no other Apacies, so there's nothing that's loaded. So hey, a few things before I go. I rewatched my old 0.4 update video, and there were a few things I wanted to clarify. One, the dialogue system still does not progress automatically. I'm having trouble deciding how I want to make it automatic. Either by every button press, it'll progress. Maybe it will have a list of things that happened in your turn. I'm having a lot of trouble just having it set on a timer that resets if you press the button. For some reason, it seems like that was going to be the easiest choice, but oh well. I'll have to work on that later for the 0.5 update. But honestly, it's not too big of a deal. Maybe I'll push that off. And then secondly, the bug where the enemy will attack you as you're selecting the target still happening. I've tried looking for where this is and I'm having a lot of trouble finding out. So I had to push that one back. So that's still a problem. Ultimately, because the ending has been fixed, it's a little bit better. And this will only happen half the time when the enemy goes directly after you. It's still very annoying, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to it. I'll try and get it out for next update. Because I'm going to be more in depth with the code anyway, I'm probably going to stumble across why that is. That's at least my hope. So, wish me luck. Sorry I couldn't get that fixed out for this update. So with a bunch of that new battle mechanics out of the way, I wanted to go over a few things that I'm thinking about next time. This update was much more relaxed, not a whole lot that you will be able to see immediately, and I wanted to explain why that might be. A lot of it is, I've so far found that taking a harsh month and then a lax month to be a good development cycle for me. So hopefully, as long as I can keep that up, you'll have a good amount of new mechanics next time, and then I'll help, or then will be a month where I refine those mechanics and more reflect on where the game is heading and what mechanics I want to introduce. And then play some games, because I want a little chill time. But a few things that I want to incorporate next time is being able to order your party outside, or I should preface this. I don't expect to get all of these done. A lot of the time I have ideas for what mechanics I want to introduce, but think of something better along the way. That being said, ordering a party in whatever orientation you want is something that's core and is something I want to introduce. I'm not sure it'll come in next update. If I get about half this list done, I'll be happy. That's a lot for one update in particular. But, so switching around your Apacies, using items both in combat and out of combat. Specifically, overworld I'm focused on right now. Out of combat, I'm thinking right now that use of items in combat is going to surround another mechanic I will have to develop later on. And so I'm kind of iffy on whether I want to make that part now, and then make it if you have this, or if you're doing this mechanic, then you can access, stuff like that. It's something to think about. Maybe you'll see it in the next version, but I'm not entirely sure. Naming your Apacies. That's something that should be relatively easy, and I've pre-coded it so that if you opened up the side menu, the menu of, let's say, Myriad, it would say exciting insert name here, the Myriad. So it'll be a little bit more personable, or more catered to each individual person's story. Eventually I'll have a saving system. Because my mechanics are so early in development still, I'm finding that procrastinating on a saving mechanic is easy because I don't know exactly what values I need to save. So forgive me on that. Hopefully I will be able to force myself into making a save function. That way people can actually play my game over time and get to where I want them to be if they don't want to spend an hour just traversing everything. I want to display changes that happen in a level up. Every time you fight, you already gain experience, you already level up. But you don't have any indication in that other than the level that shows in a battle. You don't even see it here what level you are. These stats will change too, but it isn't very likely that a player will notice that unless they're really delving deep in the game. So showing it more, showing that your Apacies is actually doing something and progressing, is something that's important to the core concept of the game. Evolution. Right now, I know which Apacies are going to evolve into what, but they don't have any code that tells them to do so. And that's going to come with a few challenges on my end, but it should be relatively easy nonetheless, maybe a day's work. And then two things that I'd be really excited to see in the game already would be simple quests, like fetch quests. So you talk to somebody and they say, why don't you go capture a sahuaron for me, or sahuela, and then you catch it and give them the sahuela. There you go, there's some money. There's an item. There's something for you. Who knows? That's stuff that I'll have to think about, and will be a more in-depth mechanic that takes me more of the month than basically any of the others. Same with NPC battles. So in Pokemon, it's a trainer battle. And here, the tentative name is leader battle, but that doesn't seem quite right to me. Something that's more pre-scripted. Hopefully something that I can specify what type of team they have, whether or not I want to randomize what team they have, which could be pretty cool. Those are some things that are going on in my mind right now. Tell me if there are any things in particular that you want to see first and foremost, because any feedback right now is going to have a massive weight as to whether or not I will do something next update. Please let me know. Let me know how I'm doing. My sprite work has been improving. I will show up a few of my favorite redesigns. It's really more just retexturing, recoloring, but I'll show them right around here-ish. Maybe put up 3 different comparisons. Myriad obviously is a huge change, but its anatomy isn't quite right, so I'll work on that a little bit. A lot of these will get little changes, and none of them have shadow yet because of a mechanic I'm thinking about. More for animations. I'm
thinking about doing something with that. Yeah,
Tell me how I'm doing. Have a good night.